Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John. And this video is going to be me talking about bad movies. Movies that I consider to be great, a lot of people consider to be bad. And I'm going to talk about why I find bad movies really enjoyable. Now, the clue is in the title. I think that when you get a bad movie, you've got to embrace it. So when you get a collection, I would imagine most people would have great movies in their collection, like say this one. And also they might have the antithesis of this movie, which I consider to be this one. Now, the funny thing is about this movie, now I put this off for a long time, as you know. I did go and watch it and I had a great time with it, and I think this is a fantastic movie. It's a movie that I really appreciated and I can watch from time to time. The clue is in that. This movie here has got to be one of the worst movies ever made. In fact, it probably is the worst movie ever made. But if I had these two on the table and someone said, right, we've got 2 hours to watch a movie, what are you going to pick? I would no doubt always go for this one above this one. Because as entertaining as this movie is more entertaining for me because it's so bad. This movie is basically bad at everything it sets out to be. It sets out to be a sci-fi movie. It's bad at that. The direction is awful. The acting is terrible. People just don't know what the lines are. They get the lines wrong. They can't even speak the lines. The sets are awful. The costumes are absolutely nuts. But this movie is so entertaining. Now, I think the best thing about a bad movie is how entertained you are. And as much as this one entertains me, this one entertains me a far lot more because it's bad. So don't get us wrong. I don't go to every bad movie that I see and say, I've got to get that in my collection. Some movies are really bad. This movie, for instance, yes, it's awful. And I didn't like it when I first saw it because it had no redeeming features. When I originally watched this movie and I saw how bad it was, I was looking for parts that I could redeem it with. Now, when I look at bad movies, or people class as bad movies, I look at the kind of acting. Is the acting really bad? Are the sets laughable? Is the story just preposterous? And if that all ticks them boxes, then you can get some enjoyment out of it. You can say to yourself, right, it's awful, but I can't believe what just happened there. So this movie on first watch was absolutely awful. And I thought I'll never watch it again. But I've went back to it recently, and actually there's not that much I can say more about it than it is a bad film, but there's a few things in it which made the enjoyment factor creep up. Not a great deal. So this movie shows you that all really bad movies aren't necessarily good bad movies. However, this movie here, which is in the same ilk, I found it to be, I thought it was going to be a really big sort of action movie, and I had seen it before and I couldn't remember it. When I put it on, I couldn't believe how bad it was. It was so bad, and I thought, I can't get through this. But as I was watching it, I thought, right, I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to see where it takes us. Is it going to be ultra bad, which it was? All the performances here were quite laughable. I think the fact that Arnie was in it briefly was kind of adding to the fact that you thought, hang on, there's some big stars in here. And it's just really bad. And this one actually turned the corner with me halfway through. I thought, I don't know if I can sit through this, a bit like Iron Master. But there was that much stupidity in this movie that I thought, you know what it is? This isn't that bad. And by the end of it, mainly due to this kid being the most annoying kid I've ever come across in a movie, I thought I really enjoyed that. So on reflection, usually when you watch a movie, on reflection, didn't care for this much. Although the second time, bit better. But on this one, I stuck with it. If you get one and you think it's awful, stick with it to the end. You never know, it might turn the corner like it did for this one. But it's amazing what you can get from a big budget movie. And you can say, this, no doubt, this is awful. Some people might say it's one of the worst films ever made. I'm not going to agree with them. But it's got that element of enjoyment in it that you only get from a certain type of movie that is literally so bad it's good. So these movies could fall into the so bad it's good bracket. But I'm saying on this video that that's a part of this, no doubt. But for me, there's this kind of a bit of a mindset you've got to go into to know you're into a bad film. You might know that from the word get-go, or you might be kind of surprised at this, think, wow, I wasn't expecting this to be this bad. But then you kind of embrace it, as I say, and you go with it, and you might find out that you're going to enjoy it. Now, these type of movies, I can't wait. Like, funny enough, when I first watched this, I thought, I'm never going to watch this again. But by the end of it, I thought, I can't wait to watch this again. So that's another sort of testament to the fact of these movies, these bad movies. If you're in that mindset and you look into it and you think, right, this is going to be awful, I'm going to go with it. And you might find yourself having a real good fun time with something that most people consider to be trash. Again, some big blockbuster movies are quite enjoyable, and I find that you can have a good time with them. Although, if someone said to me, how many times did you watch this? And I say, maybe once every couple of years, I will watch it again. We did have a good time with it. But this one here, you could say it was the other side of the coin. This one's got some kind of daft bits in it. But this one, you could say, is absolutely ridiculous. But for that, you get your enjoyment factor out of it. It's going into the so bad it's good bracket. But that makes it rewatchable for me. I would rather watch this one over this one. But this one, you could say, was the more polished version of it. This one is just out and out, just madness. So even though you would say this is the most accomplished of this type of movie, I would definitely go for this one. The same goes for this movie. I would rather watch this movie over this more accomplished movie. It's just the fun factor. This movie is preposterous. It ticks all the boxes for me. It's really badly done. It's got a zero budget. It's just you can't believe what you're seeing. The actual everything about it is wrong. The dubbing's wrong. The action's wrong. The story is just barking mad. But this is such an enjoyable movie. It's got a horrendous print. This one's got one of the best prints you'll ever see. This is one of the worst looking films you'll ever see. But it doesn't matter because the enjoyment factor is there because you've got this whole ridiculousness on the screen. In every frame, you're just begging belief at what you're seeing. Same goes for this movie. Sometimes I get a movie that's really good, like The Evil Dead, and then you get a kind of bad counterpart, like this one. When I talk about movies that are so bad they're good or like enjoyable to me, I can talk about anything. I can talk about horror. I'm talking about horror and action and stuff like that. You can talk about any type of movie, comedy as well. Some comedies are awful, but they're so watchable. I think that it's kind of there's a kind of genre here of bad movies that, and everybody likes sort of bad movies. They will say when they're talking on a stream, they'll say, "I've got a guilty pleasure," or it's a movie that everyone else hates but I enjoy. You always hear that coming up on stream, but it just goes to show you that the enjoyment factor for these type of movies is there. I think if it wasn't there, they wouldn't be made. I think that when they try to go out and make a really bad movie, it doesn't work. I think unintentionally, you do get movies that are better for the fact that they're just not thought about. They're put out there, maybe thinking, oh, this is going to be a good idea. And it falls flat in the face, but people can get enjoyment out of it. And I think that's part of the fun of discovering a bad movie, because when you see something that's truly awful, you can sort of think to yourself as well, what were the people thinking of when they put this movie out? Why did they even go there? What was the mindset when they went into this movie? How did they ever think there was an audience for it now? If I was going to make a movie on a shoestring, I would make a movie like this, so bad it's good. I would put everything in it that I thought was wrong. And it would find a cult audience. You would actually, if you want to make a cult movie, just make a movie like this and it'll find its audience. And I think the more cult stuff in here is really bad. And a lot of people will come at the room and they would say, right, you've got this and you've got that, but why on earth have you got that? They might say 50% of your stuff I would throw in the bin. And I would say, brilliant. I like to hear that because I like to think that this movie collection in here reflects the fact that I don't take this sort of movie log too seriously. I can embrace the fact of these movies being pretty bad, but I don't mind. I get enjoyment out of them. I think that all these movies on the shelves, I would like to think I enjoy in some way, some more than others and some I would watch more than others. But the ones I would watch more than others seems to be the ones that are really, really bad. And they've got some kind of stuff about them. Now, when I go with Deborah and they say, look, you're going to watch this movie, it's going to be bad. She doesn't want to watch it. But usually after she's watched the movie, she'd say, you know what, I had a really good time with that movie. Now, hello? Yeah. Oh, yes. McDonald's. Can I have a milkshake? Strobe. Strobe milkshake. I know. It's not broken. Okay. Right then. Bye then. Bye. Matty D's. Some people may come to the shelves and might say, yeah, this movie here is one of the best movies ever made. And I'll agree with them. They'll say it's one of the most iconic and my favorite movie of the sort of horror genre. And I would agree with them. But I would say to them on the same breath, yeah, but have you seen this? And they'll say, what's that? And I'll say, well, this movie is spectacular. And this movie is awful. It's one of the worst Halloween rip-offs you can ever see. Why would you like it? And I says, well, because it's one of the worst rip-offs of Halloween you'll ever see. That's enough for me. When I put this on, I could not believe how bad it was. but that was enjoyment of it. I couldn't believe that they were going to literally rip off frame for frame Halloween in some aspects with the music and everything. But I found that enjoyable. I could understand fans of this movie not liking this. I'm not saying this type of thing is for everybody, but I'm saying if you're a sort of fan of this and you want to sort of branch out and take in a different aspect of Halloween movies or that type of ilk, then do try some of the really bad rip-offs, because a rip-off movie is something's one of the best things you can watch if you're a fan of the original. Speaking of rip-offs, most amazing movies has a rip-off counterpart. Now, this movie here is basically, now you say Jaws, absolutely brilliant, 10 out of 10, love it. There's nothing bad to say about this movie. But I like this movie, not equally as much, I think. But then again, I watched Jaws quite a lot, but I could watch this equally as much, if not more, because of the sheer lunacy of this movie. Basically, it's a Jaws rip-off, but on a golf course. The shark is replaced by a lawnmower, and that's about it. And yes, it's as daft as it sounds. It's still got this the sort of same like cast in here, the like fighting this lawnmower for the movie. But it just shows you there's a real thirst for this type of movie out there. And this movie is done in a spectacular form. It's one of the best things I've ever seen, presentation wise. So, as a fan of a bad movie, these rip-offs are right up my alley. Hello? No. Bye. Bye. No McPlants. Hmm. Some people might say to me that Star Wars ooh, is their favourite film franchise. And I say, yeah, it's great. But have you seen this? I always think there is a goofy counterpart to every movie that's out there. Now, this movie here, I can watch this 10 times a day. It's absolutely brilliant. The series is just phenomenal. I do think they should get out the whole franchise of Transfers in a box set, 88 films. And maybe you haven't put it up against the best one because you could consider this is so bad it's good. But to be honest, after watching it once, this is one of the ones that's so bad it's bad. The person for me that's been ripped off the most is the legend Bruce Lee. Now, if you like Bruce Lee, check one of these out. Now, the thing about this movie is it is just so ridiculous. The fact is, everybody knows when Lee died. When I said Bruce Lee, that was a Freudian slip. This isn't Bruce Lee, is it? It's Bruce Lee. Wow. And what you've got to remember is that they were thirsty for Bruce Lee, and there was no Bruce Lee to be found. So what they did was they just invented these movies. Enter the Game of Death was, come on, Enter Dragon versus Game of Death, all this type of nonsense. Now this movie here, don't buy, if you want to get it, don't buy this DVD. The fact it's the only way you can get it in the UK at the moment, I think. I would love this on Blu-ray. If you're going to watch it, watch it on YouTube. It's on YouTube. I urge you to watch it. If you're a fan of Bruce Lee and you want to see the ultimate Bruce Lee rip-off, Enter the Game of Death is that one that you want. It's so preposterous, but then again, it's so enjoyable. I can have as well. I would have watched this a lot more than I would watch this one. But you see where I'm going with this. You can see that in my collection, I've got the best of the best, I consider, and I've got the worst of the worst, and they sit side by side, and I haven't got no snobbery for the fact that this is awful, but I do consider it to be a movie that should be in my collection because I enjoy it. The main thing about this whole video is that you have, if you snub these movies and don't go near them at all, you might be missing out on a wealth of fun and enjoyment. And to me, when anyone asks me about what do you think about what's the main thing you like about your collection, I'll say enjoyment. If I enjoy it, if I enjoy looking at them, if I enjoy watching them, if I enjoy collecting them, that's it. If I didn't, I would not do it because the main thing about this is all about enjoyment. People might not know about the enjoyment factor of embracing bad movies and seeing them for what they are. Don't necessarily write them off as something that is just something that should be put in the box or thrown away and not looked at ever again. So hopefully this video has made some sense. I've had it on my to-do list for a long time. The fact of just talking about bad movies is great to me. In fact, doing a whole stream about bad movies would be amazing. So please, like me, embrace bad movies. There's something to be enjoyed in many of them. You take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.